I'm deviation. I haven't done a video for a long time. I'm really sorry about this. This is World of Tanks, and I've been playing this game for a little bit to try to understand how it works. How could a game that is free to play, available online, you can play online, you don't have to pay any money, how does it work financially wise? Try to understand a little bit. And I've already had 1,000 subscribers, so thank you all very much. I expect you subscribe because of my Total War series videos and my slightly more historical videos, such as the one on the Battle of Marathon and so on. I would like to get back to those. I intend to, so thank you all for subscribing. In the meantime, I'll do this video, and I'm doing this to show, or try to understand and maybe show you how could a game make money when it's free to play in principle. So here's one of my most successful tanks. This one is a Panzer IV-A. It's a tank from 1940, used in the invasion of France. That was the heaviest tank the Germans had at the time. It was also used in North Africa and in the Eastern Front, where it confronted superior Russian tanks, and so it had to be upgraded into the Panzer IV-Ds. But this is still the Panzer IV-A. And to show you how successful this tank has been for me, I'll go into what's called a service record and the Hall of Fame, and we'll go to the rating that rates the tanks, and I'll show you my all-time rating in this tank. I don't play it so much anymore, but I used to play it when I first started. And so since December 2014, some rating. So these are my best performing tanks. So Panzer IV-A is my second best performing tank. And to get an idea of how well I was doing, I'm still doing this tank, this one, which is not as well performing, the Grille, is given a percentage rating. I scored higher than 92% of all players in this one, and it is just my 5th best tank. So these other 4 I've scored better. And someone checked, some website or something worked out that in this one I've scored better than 93% of all players in the Panzer IV-A. So you would imagine then that in this tank I'd be doing really well against other players in battles. Let's have a look. So Panzer IV-A is here, and it gives you the win rate below. So this 50% below that you see, this icon, that's the win rate. And I'll show you the Grille that had 92% rating. The Grille is here, 51% win rate. That only just got up to 51%. It used to be 50% as well. And pretty much all of my tanks, this one has 50% hetzer. It's also one of my best tanks. The Tiger is kind of an okay 51%. This one is, again, one of my best tanks. This kind of prototype tank, the VK3001D, 50%. Most of them are 47, 49, and so on. Some of them are better, like this one here, the Panzer IV-D has 56%. Exceptional that I have a 56% win rate on a tank. Most of them are around 50%. So what is going on? Maybe I'm not a very good player. So someone said, okay, so you have these very high ratings on your tanks, but maybe you're not a very good player. And maybe it's just chance or something. You picked, whatever, you picked the wrong tanks or whatever, the right tanks or whatever. So let's see, what is my rating as a player overall? So service record, go back to Hall of Fame, and this will give me the rating as a player overall compared to the player base. And so I have 50% victories roundabout, and I've scored higher than 62% of all players regardless of the tank I'm playing in. So I usually, on every day, I play about 20 to 30 different tanks. Some of them I'm good at, like the ones I showed you, and some of them I'm not so good at. But on average, I score on average in these tanks 62% than other players, but I only have a 50% win rate. And I do expect that this is the same with everyone. And what does this mean? How can it be that, in other words, others who have a 60%, 70%, 80%, 90% win rate, or rather World of Tank ratings, would have a 50% win rate? How could this work out? The only two ways I can think about, and I posted something in the forums and I didn't get any other ideas, the only two possibilities that I can think of are that either everybody picks out their best tanks, and so when you roll into battle in a tank that has a 90% World of Tank ratings, this is one of your best tanks, so you like to play in it because you seem to be doing better than other players, thinking that maybe you can improve your win rate. In fact, everyone else is doing the same. So everyone else is rolling into battle in their best tanks that have, in their category for their type, a 90% win rate or whatever. World of Tank ratings. So you end up fighting equal versus equal. However, the fact that I am overall better than 62% of all players means that it cannot be just that. There may be a part of that, but it cannot be all that, because then I would be just 50%. At 50%, I wouldn't be rated better than average. The only way that I've broken this barrier and I'm better than 50%, if it's not chance, is that it doesn't matter in what tanks you roll into battle. Yeah, it doesn't matter how good your tank is or how bad your tank is. It will matter, and it will matter if you are a total beginner. And this is where World of Tanks makes their money, I think. If you roll in as a total beginner, you have something that's called a skill. So if you go back to my tank that I was showing you here, it's unlucky. So if you see this tank, it has Wintercowfly. If you're wondering, that's why it looks white. The Panzer IV, you see on the left there are these images, these faces of these the crew members, and you see they already have various skills. In addition to their skills, they have 100% crew training. And if you look on the right, there are various statistics here of this tank. Over on the right, which says firepower, survivability, and so on. Now, when you first start as a player in the very beginning, your crews are not 100% and they don't have any skills. And if you look at some of these numbers, for example, if you look at view range down below, there it says 344. Subtract from that about 12 or 14 due to the skills that my crew has. It goes down to about 330. Well, a beginner player with a 50% crew, before he played any battles, he would have not a view range of 330. He would have a view range of half of that, so 165. That's 165 real life meters, basically. So if you were rolling out in this tank and there was a football stadium on your left and there was a big highway and you were rolling down this highway and there was an enemy tank on the other side of that road where the stadium ended, 165 meters away, out in the open, in the middle of the highway, because your view range would be 165 meters, you would not be able to see that tank. Under the best possible conditions, because you would be at 165 meters away, that would have been your view range as a beginning player with a half-skilled crew. You won't be able to see that tank standing in the middle of the highway. That's how this game works. And even if you could see that you have a signal range that's half of that, so 250 meters. So no other tank will be able to know potentially that you've seen that tank. If it was more than something like 260 meters or something away from you. And if you were to aim at it, there's various like aiming times and aiming accuracy and so on. Your accuracy will be half of what it says here. So like, for example, reload time says 3.84. Well, it would have been twice that. Reload time would be over 7 seconds. Rate of fire wouldn't be 15.65. It would be half of that. It would be, what is it, less than 8 per minute. And all the other measures, you see that dispersion and so on, it wouldn't be 0.48. It would be some crazy number. Probably you just hit, you fire and your shot could go perpendicularly up or down or anywhere. It could go anywhere, basically, if you had half of that or whatever. So you start like this. You cannot see any tanks. Everyone can see you. And they can signal their allies that they've seen you. And then you fire a shot and it goes up in the air somewhere, totally missing. You can only reload once every, whatever it was, 7 seconds if you're lucky. You have no chance as a beginning player. So when I started, I had a win rate of some of my tanks of about 30% or something. And that only because my friends were killing tanks because I was just getting shot. It doesn't matter what you do. And you watch some videos on YouTube and you think, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that. It doesn't matter because you cannot see anyone. Everyone can see you. When you aim at someone, you can never hit. It takes forever to aim. It takes forever to reload. It's hopeless. And so the only way then you can start making a difference is by training your crew. This takes a very long time. But you can pay real world money to train your crew. You can get them academy trained. And if you go somewhere, crew training, I don't know, let me see, let's pick up this commander, open personal file, and if you say something like skills increase, so no, it won't work anymore because he's already trained. But if you go, let's say training, just pick this one here. Yeah, you say it's Tank Academy. So when you start, your crew has gone through rapid courses, has a 50% skill level, you see at the bottom. And you can train him by taking them, you can train your crew by taking them through regimental school. You pay some in-game money, 20,000, or you can pay some real money. You can buy this gold, so to speak, with real money, and then you can take them through Tank Academy, train your crew to 100%, so everything doubles or halves or whatever, so you can actually finally be able to see someone who's 165 meters away, standing in the middle of the open. And without camouflage, without anything, you have a chance of seeing someone. And then you have a chance of, when you shoot him, you don't shoot laterally to the left or to the right. You actually shoot straight ahead. You have a chance of actually hitting someone. It's just crazy. And then that's just when you start. And you can imagine then you start with this, let's say this is like tier 3 tank, you see there. So you can go to the tech tree. So the Panzer IV-A is a tier 3 tank, and then you go through the tiers because now you're tier 3. You have this nice tank. It's all, it's got a nicely trained and skilled crew, and it has camouflage on it, and you've bought the camouflage with real world money, and then it has all these consumables and so on, and it's as good as it gets. But then it's made so that very often you'll encounter tier 4 tanks in your battles. And you're clearly inferior. It doesn't matter that now you're as good as any other tier 3 tank. Once you're faced with tier 4 tanks, which you will encounter in some battles, then you'll be inferior. And so you think, oh, bugger, so I need a better tank. So you go to tier 4 and you buy some tier 4 tanks. You see, I have some tier 4 tanks. I have, for Germany, I have up to about tier 6. I have 2 tier 6 tanks. You buy some tier 4s, but then once you have a tier 4 tank, you roll into battle. Sometimes you encounter tier 5 and tier 6 tanks in your battles. It wasn't like this originally, as I understand it, but it became like a way to make money. Yeah. And so because now you're encountering these tanks that you can no longer penetrate, that they can kill you very easily and so on. So you think, oh dear, I'll go up to tier 5 then. But then you'll meet up tier 6 and tier 7 tanks and so on. And it never ends until you get to tier 9 and 10, because then you cannot have higher tier tanks. Tier 9 and 10 is the highest you get. But the problem with tier 9 and 10 is that you no longer, you have to, they're so expensive to maintain that you cannot really maintain them. You know, after a battle, you suffer so much damage, you have to repair, and you have to buy, you know, new shells and so on, and new consumables and food and so on, that you actually spend money in-game currency to be able to play a battle. And in the end, you're going to run out of in-game currency. And so you have to spend real world money to buy in-game currency so you can play on your tier 9 and 10 tanks, in which you can finally be on a par with everyone else. And so that's how this game works. Okay. And there's another side to this that I find a little bit, you know, uncomfortable. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with. So my mouse is stuck again. Something is updating or something. It's unfortunate. In any case, and I think that's kind of odd. Is that there are YouTube videos, and they show you, let's say, the Panzer IV-3, and someone rolls into battle in the Panzer IV-3, and you know, kills all kinds of tanks. It does really well. It has 8 kills, 10 kills, very often you see these videos for premium, so-called premium tanks. You can only buy with real-world money. You cannot just get them in the course of, you know, going through the game. And you see some YouTubers doing those videos. Well, these YouTubers have a special deal with World of Tanks, with Wargaming, the company that runs this game. And they are the first ones to get access to some new special tanks and premium tank and so on. So they are the first ones to get it. And when they get it with a crew that's not like the crews that I've shown you, but it has tons and tons and tons of skills that nobody else has. And these crews they get, along with these premium tanks, they're like 15% better than the best crew anybody else has got. So they have a longer view range, they have a higher camouflage value, you can stay somewhere hidden and nobody will be able to see you, and you can shoot people, and you can see longer than anybody else can, so you can be the first one who shoots at an enemy tank and so on. And then they do really well, these people who, you know, have this deal with a game company. And they do really well, and because they're the first person who's ever played in this tank, there's nobody better than them, so they get all things like they are ace tanker, and they get all kinds of medals and so on, because, you know, they killed a lot of tanks or something in this battle. And then suddenly, you know, you see this video, this new premium tank, look, if you buy it, you get, you get an ace tanker badge, and you get this and that because that's a great tank. But of course, you know, you won't have the same crew. And by the time this tank is released and everyone else buys it, it won't be so easy anymore to become an ace tanker in it, because a lot of other people are playing it now, and you have to be above a certain standard compared to other players to become an ace tanker in a tank. And so not only that, but there's more and more and more and more different types of tanks. So it becomes less and less straightforward to buy a tank that has a clear advantage in some sector that you can use it to get better results than other players. Because there are probably hundreds of different tanks in the game. There are going to be tanks out in the battles where that can you know, deal with you. And why is it that battles, by the way, if we go back to the initial question, why is it that battles are at 50% win rate, regardless of how good you are, unless you are one of these special players with the special deals that get these special tanks with special crews? Most of the rest of us have about 50% win rates. Why is that so? The reason why that is so, I believe, it is my theory, it's very hard to prove, but I think it makes sense, is that every team has 15 players, and you can imagine you take 15 random people because you cannot select your teammates. They're just randomly picked from the player base. So you get some, you have a team of 15. Some of them are going to be good, some of them are going to be not so good, and so on. Random, different ones, different team, different ones, different times and battles. And so the same for the enemy team. So you have a random mix of 15 people finding a rather random mix of 15 people within which you have a random position. You may be the best player, the second best, the 7th best, the 10th best, whatever. And the same in the other team. What's the result going to be? It's going to be random. It's going to be 50%. You have to be absolutely like the top player in a particular tank. And, playing that tank and be very good and have like good skills and everything that it takes to have camouflage and be careful and everything. And then with a little bit of luck, we may end up like I have done with one of my tanks. I had better than 95% of all other players in that tank. I have a win rate of 55%. That means out of 20 battles, I win 11 and I lose 9. It's nothing, that's what you get. And that's my explanation why the majority of the people, something like 95% of all people who play this game, have a win rate between 45 and 55%, around 50%. And that's, there are statistics, there are graphs that show that. So if you're around, if you're 65% of other players, 75% of other players, you're probably still very close to the mean or median or whatever, around 50% win rate, even though you're good. And if you're worse than other players, only like 40% better than some of the other players, or rather better than 40% of other players, or 35% of other players, not so good, below average, you still have a win rate of 50%. You have to be a real beginner with a non-skilled, non-trained crew, nothing, to have a win rate of below kind of 45%. You have to be a real beginner, and not because you're stupid, but because you don't have a well-kitted out tank yet. And that's the main thing. And once you've got a well-kitted out tank, even if you're not necessarily intelligent or good or play a lot or experienced or whatever, you still have a 50% win rate. And then you want to improve, so you want to improve, you spend more money, you try to train your crews and train them more and spend more money and buy, more equipment, more consumables, better turrets, better guns, better this, better that. It's not going to change. You still have 50%, you think, I have some battles, this tank, I'm better than 90% of the other players, whatever, I'll research this line, I'll do this, still 50%. I go up one level, still 50%. It's not going to change unless you're like, you have some crazy crew. You need to have a deal with World Gaming to have that crew. And, unless you play like tens and tens of thousands of games with just one crew, and he has fantastic training and skills, and you keep playing the same tank, and you know this tank inside out, and you worked out everything down to a T, and it's your best tank, and you may get about 55% win rate in that case, which, if I played just my best tank and nothing else, I would have a 56-57% win rate if I just did that. And so yes, you can do it. But under, very special conditions. So, that was my video. I'm hoping to get back to the Total War series. Really, I like the Total War series much more than this. But I was just so frustrated that I couldn't understand why my win rate is not improving. And it took me thousands of games to start working this out. So, thank you for watching.